Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Speak English Unleashed. I'm Abigail.
And I'm Lucas. It's great to be here with you all today.
How's your week going so far, Lucas?
It's been quite busy, but very rewarding. I've been trying to stay organized. How about you, Abigail?
I'm doing well. I've actually been reflecting on how much our habits influence our success. That brings us to today's theme, mastering your daily routine.
That's a perfect topic. Our daily actions really do shape our long term goals. It's the small, consistent steps that count.
Exactly. We all have different ways of navigating our 24 hours. Today, we'll explore how different people structure their time, from the first light of dawn to the quiet of the night.
And as we go along, Abigail and I will be highlighting some essential English terms and expressions to help you improve your vocabulary while you learn about these routines.
Let's start at the beginning. Lucas, are you an early bird?
I definitely try to be. Since I work in an office, my day starts quite early. I usually get up at 6:15 a.m. The very first thing I do is open the curtains to let the sunlight in. It helps me wake up naturally. Then I head straight to the kitchen to brew a fresh pot of coffee. I can't really function without my caffeine fix.
I understand that. My routine is a bit different because I work as a freelance designer from home. I wake up at 7 a.m., but I don't go to the kitchen right away. Instead, I roll out my yoga mat and spend about 15 minutes on a yoga flow. It helps me feel centered and flexible before I sit at my desk for hours.
That sounds very healthy. After my coffee, I usually jump in a quick shower to feel energized. Then I spend about 10 minutes reading the morning news on my tablet. It's important for me to know what's happening in the world before the workday officially begins.
I agree. After my yoga, I take a cold plunge. Well, a very cold shower. It's quite intense, but it really clears my brain fog. For breakfast, I usually prepare a protein smoothie with spinach and fruit. It's fast and keeps me full until lunch.
I prefer a more traditional breakfast. I usually have Greek yogurt with some granola and honey. While I eat, I quickly check my calendar to see if I have any urgent meetings. It helps me visualize my day.
Planning is key. I usually write down my 3 most important goals for the day in my journal. It keeps me from getting distracted by small tasks. Now, Lucas, why don't we look at some of the interesting expressions we used?
Great idea. I mentioned being an early bird, which is a person who gets up early. I also talked about my caffeine fix. That's a slang term for that first coffee that makes you feel alert.
And I mentioned a yoga flow, which is a sequence of positions and how my cold shower clears my brain fog, which is that feeling of confusion you sometimes have right after waking up.
Finally, we mentioned a cold plunge, which is immersing yourself in cold water, and the verb to visualize, which means forming a mental image of how your day will go.
Now, moving into the afternoon, this is usually when the real work happens.
For me, the afternoon is the most challenging part. My office is usually very loud, so I use noise canceling headphones to stay in the zone. I usually tackle my most difficult reports between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. because that's when my concentration is highest.
I'm the opposite. I find that I'm most creative in the late afternoon. I use a technique called the Pomodoro technique. I work for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break. During those breaks, I usually step out onto my balcony for some fresh air.
I've heard of that. I should try it. For lunch, I usually go out with my colleagues around 12:30 p.m. We usually go to a local deli for a sandwich or a wrap. It's a good way to socialize and take a mental break from the screen.
That's nice. Since I'm at home, I try to meal prep on Sundays so I have healthy lunches ready. Today I had a quinoa salad. After eating, I often feel a bit tired, so I take a 10-minute power nap on the sofa. It's a total game changer for my productivity.
I wish I could do that at the office. Instead of a nap, I usually go for a quick walk around the block after lunch. The movement helps me avoid the afternoon slump. Eh, When I get back to my desk, I spend the rest of the day answering emails and finishing up smaller tasks.
I usually spend my late afternoon on client calls or brainstorming new designs. I try to wrap up my professional work by 5:30 p.m. so I can transition into my personal time.
Let's break down some of that afternoon vocabulary. I said I like to stay in the zone, which means being completely focused on what you are doing.
And I mentioned the Pomodoro technique, which is a time management method, and meal prep, which is preparing your meals in advance to save time during the week.
We also talked about a power nap, a short sleep to feel refreshed, and the afternoon slump, which is that period of low energy many people feel after lunch.
Lastly, I mentioned wanting to wrap up my work, which simply means to finish a task or a period of work. Finally, the evening. This is my favorite time to decompress.
I agree. My workday usually ends at 6 p.m., but I don't go straight home. I go to the gym 3 times a week for a workout session. It helps me release any stress from the office. After that, I head home to cook dinner.
I also prioritize movement in the evening. I usually take my dog for a long walk in the park. It's my way of doing a digital detox. I leave my phone at home so I can enjoy nature without notifications.
That sounds very peaceful. For dinner, I like to experiment with new recipes. Tonight, I'm making grilled chicken with roasted sweet potatoes. I find cooking to be very therapeutic. While I eat, I might watch a short documentary or listen to a podcast.
Dinner for me is a time to connect with my partner or friends. We usually eat around 7:30 p.m. Afterward, I have a strict no screens rule an hour before bed. Instead of scrolling through social media, I prefer to settle in with a good novel or do some journaling.
I follow a similar path. After dinner, I tidy up the kitchen, which helps me feel organized for the next morning. Then I might do some mindfulness meditation for 10 minutes. It really helps me switch off my brain so I don't lay awake thinking about work.
That's so important for sleep quality. I usually have a warm bath with Epsom salts to relax my muscles. By 10:30 p.m., I'm usually ready to hit the hay.
I'm usually in bed by 11 p.m. I make sure my room is completely dark and cool. Getting 8 hours of sleep is my top priority. Before we finish, Abigail, let's look at these final terms.
Sure, I mentioned that I like to decompress, which means to relax after work. I also do a digital detox, which is a period of time without using electronic devices.
I said that cooking is therapeutic for me, meaning it makes me feel relaxed. We also use the phrase settle in, which means to become comfortable and relaxed in a place.
We also talked about mindfulness meditation to focus on the present moment and the informal expression hit the hay, which is a common way to say you are going to sleep. It's been so interesting to compare our routines, Lucas. It just shows that there isn't one correct way to live your day.
Exactly. The best routine is the one that makes you feel healthy, happy, and productive. We hope our listeners enjoyed hearing about our habits and learned some new English expressions.
Remember, if you want to improve your English, try describing your own daily routine using the words we discussed today. Consistency is key.
Well said, Abigail. A big thanks to everyone for listening to this episode of Speak English Unleashed.
Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Have a wonderful and balanced day ahead.
Goodbye, everyone.